access to and paintings aren't.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so then, relatedly, I feel like we should talk about paper making if we're talking about books. The writing, the reading, and then making the paper, but you're not really using this paper to write that I know of, or draw even. I mean, that's debatable, but
It's not utilitarian.
it's not utilitarian in that way.
And honestly, it's more expensive.
It's expensive. It's a little bit right. It's finicky. It's sort of labor intensive. It's probably also economically expensive. Certainly in terms of time. So let's talk a little bit about the process of making paper. How did you get into that? What are your sort of hopes and dreams about it? Also, like, I know you put lots of shit. You put lots of different shit into the paper. So, yeah, go ahead.
In undergrad, I took a paper making course, and I did it when I had this idea that I wanted to be a fiber major instead of a painting major, or do a double major, which I didn't end up doing. But the paper making class, I didn't like it when I was taking it, and I was going through like a lot of weird shit when I was taking it, and afterwards, I think I was a junior. The next year, though, I was really into the idea of it, and I think I just didn't have the like brain space for it at the time. But the thing that I like about paper making is it's so much more satisfying as a painting to me than most paintings, and that it's just so minimal, and it's not trying to be a million other things and like argue itself into this like 3,000-year-old discourse of making visual art, but you can just like put materials in and make a 2D surface out of it in like whatever capacity you want, and then that becomes a thing, and it has all of like the texture, time-based things, materiality, intentionality that I like. And I'm very suspicious of, like I said before, paintings that have like prefab grounds, because if I'm taking the time to look at an object that someone makes, like the first thing I ask myself is, why does it exist from the ground up at all? And I get kind of obsessive about that with my own work, so having that as a ground is nice because I'm in control of it from start to finish. All of it's very intentional, and even though it's not cheap, it's the thing that ends up being cheap about it is a time-based thing too, where if you have work on paper, even if it's on like thick substantial paper, storing it is way easier than having panels.
Well, I think that's a few things. I've always really liked, like, whenever I look up an artist, and this is typically painters or 2D, whatever. But actually sculptors too. The works on paper, I look at those first for some reason. Like if I want to know if like an artist, like if I really believe them, like if I really buy it,
right,
I always go to the works on paper. And I can see like, okay, can they draw? Can they sketch? Like what is this stuff like? And then it's sort of easy to go from there.
I think people react differently to paper than they do anything else.
Right.
Because it's also that it speaks to like the economy of materials, where if you just grabbed a random person off the street and asked them if they've done something on canvas or wood panel versus on paper, everyone has written on paper or like done something to paper in their lifetime. It's a very accessible thing.
It is. I know, I like that about it too. Although you could also argue that at least in this environment, paper becomes a strange material in a way.
It's so
especially
weird.
The way that you use it. Like, it's like, what, this is on paper? Like,
I mean, I think everything economical here is strange.
Yeah. Yeah, that's an
I mean, compared to my undergrad experience, like, that wouldn't be weird at all.
Right.
And people using like cheap materials or ephemeral materials was very commonplace. And here everything's like made to be in like the Tate. So yeah, all of that's very new for me, and it's something that I'm just like reacting to in real time, and I have to like reach back to my network from undergrad. And I'm like, when you guys went to grad school, did this happen to you? Yes or no?
And
no?
Did it?
Okay, can I talk to you about something?
Did it not?
Not for a lot of people.
Huh.
Yeah.
It's interesting. There's this sort of like, there's this thing that I've noticed where it's like, on the one hand, I feel like I think we as artists sort of think that we can make our work out of anything, you know? Like I still kind of feel that way. Like, just give me whatever and I'll make something out of it. Like, but at the same time, like we become so crazy about the materials that it is we use.
Right.
And how much time is spent actually, I don't know. I struggle with it too.
I mean, for me, there's like in the shape of like an X, I guess, you have like don't give a fuck and care so much as being these sides, and then up and down is how it relates to what like the overall like concept or emotion or whatever the drive is.
Right.
So if you have your drive and you care so much about everything, then whatever you make from the ground up is going to relate to this like drive and concept. You could also give so much of a fuck but like not have it relate at all and just have it be a paneled painting, which if you're not making work that speaks to like the history of making panel paintings, why does it look like this? Just because it's a default. Okay, could you explain that more? No, it's just intended for a museum. And then it just becomes boring. It's like, yeah, like I appreciate the technicality and the finesse that like you've put into this, but the concept and form of it is just like pushing the language of painting or 2D representation into a coffin. And like we've been trying to fight against that for so long, so why is this happening? So in like that shape of an X, like all of the paneled stuff where it doesn't matter is down here, and then you can have things made on like trash or like whatever you want, as long as it like fits with the drive and the concept and you know that, and that can be up here, or it can be on the other side where you just like don't care because you don't have money or you don't give a shit, and then that doesn't matter. That would be up there. And then also like people who work on just like Blick, like 11 by 14 games.
Right, exactly.
And like the other end. But yeah, I don't know. I think my undergrad experience is just like very like forward in my brain when I think about materiality. And Josephine, in the last studio visit she had here, said something to me about mass art that was like, usually people who leave mass art are one of two things. They're either like really technically proficient or like really concept driven, but it's like one or the other. Like there's an intelligence or like a material choice that's made there, and like that's just been really messy. What are you trying to say? Like probably nothing, but
interesting.
Yeah, you can. A lot of things that happen here would not fly in my undergrad experience. Yeah, like people would just be roasted for like 2 semesters until they stopped.
Yeah. Okay, so what is? I know you've done a lot of. You've done some collaboration, and then you've also. I know you did this residency. I think you've done other residencies. Talk about that a little bit. Also, we have way more than we need at this point. It's like we've been talking for like 35 minutes, I think. So I think we have plenty in terms of the length of the assignment. So I'll ask you a few more things and then we can just kind of whatever.
Okay.
thinking about collaboration, but also like where it is that you would like your work to be, or like to be, how would you like it to be seen or encountered